Welcome, everyone, to all who are joining for this Democrats Abroad California State Team event. We're going to get started shortly. As you'll see in the chat box, if you want to share the country where you live now and the place in California where you vote, that would be great. I'm Inga Kemtrup. I live in London in the UK, vote in San Mateo County, where my congressional rep is Anna Eshoo. I'm the co-lead of the Democrats Abroad California State Team, along with Judith Bolker, who you'll be hearing from shortly. We're also joined by Paula Matos, our newsletter editor. Keep that in mind if you think you might be someone who's interested in participating in the newsletter. We're going to be talking a bit about some of the volunteer activities you can do to help us get involved. I need to also mention, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the Democrats Abroad YouTube channel. I hope that everyone's been following the amazing election results from yesterday's election. Oh my God. Andy Beshear in Kentucky, the Democrats holding both houses in Virginia, Ohio issue 1 passed. So, we're going to have a lot of winning ahead, and this is how it all gets started. And that includes in our California districts. There was a nice quote from Ben Wickler, who's the chair of the Wisconsin State Party. He said, "In every one of these fights that we're celebrating tonight," he wrote this last night, "there were moments when those on the ground doubted whether victory was even possible, and then decided to just keep on doing the work. When that moment comes for you in the next year, just remember how this moment feels." So for me, that was really inspiring, because I think we're going to be doing that as well in California with our swing districts, but also with lots of other districts, because as you all know, we have a very exciting Senate primary coming up. I'm just going to mention the agenda. Judith is going to be introducing our guest speaker. And after he speaks, there will be a Q&A. And then we're going to be talking a bit about the team and what our plans are coming forward. If you have a question for the speaker when we get forward to that, if you could please just type in the box * hand up. It's a convention we do at Democrats Abroad, and it just makes it easier to find people. So if you would do that, we'd be very grateful. I think we're moving along, and I know Alex has a limited amount of time. So why don't I turn it over to you, Judith, to introduce Alex.
All right. And I am going, hi, Alex. So, I am pleased to introduce you to Alex. He was born in Los Angeles, the son of immigrants, and Alex became politically engaged at a young age due to 2 major events. The attack on September 11th, 2001, we'll never forget that, and the fight for LGBTQ rights. I met Alex in 2022, and he worked for the Democratic Congressional campaign, which we all know as DCCC. He was a field organizer for then Assemblyman Rudy Salas, and Rudy Salas was running for Congress in California's 22nd district against incumbent Congressman David Valadao. It was one of the most competitive campaigns in the country, and Rudy lost by only 3,000 votes. So Alex is here today to tell us about this close campaign, what worked and what didn't, and why your help this coming year is going to be so important. So Alex, please.
Hi, thank you so much, Judith. It's been a lot of fun. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm unmuted. Okay, good. It's been a lot of fun working with you to get to this point. As was mentioned, I do have a limited amount of time, but I'm still really excited to be here. As was already mentioned, I did work for the DCCC as a field organizer for helping then Assembly Member Rudy Salas win. The main things that I felt worked was just how connected we were with outside area coalitions teams, which were very successful in defeating David Valadao back in 2018. That success was built upon in 2022, primarily with the Bay Area Coalition. So one thing that we could do moving forward is expanding those type of coalitions, because as is known in the metro areas of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and other places, they tend to be relatively safe in regards to Democratic secured seats. And as the speaker mentioned previously, the Central Valley is the new battleground area for California, albeit there's exceptions too in Orange County and other places. So making sure we're able to bring in those human resources into our area, specifically because the Central Valley has a lot of apathy, especially amongst the population, which is my home area. And I've experienced this primarily with Latino. Whenever I do any Latino outreach, it's a combination of various things, as you all can imagine. Economic insecurity, primarily focused on, family security in regards to making sure people can afford the home that they're staying in, making sure their children and their spouses have what they need to be successful. So politics is usually not even on the radar, and if it is, it's more of a nuisance at times. So it's really important to have outside voices bring in kind of like a light of clarity in being able to connect people to a greater cause, which is a nationwide effort to make sure we flip the House of Representatives and maintain control of the US Senate. And I think that if we can uncover that secret of making sure we wash people of the apathy and really empower them is important. The Central Valley tends to have a lot of conservative-minded people for various reasons. So making sure we're able to educate people on on combating a lot of the scare tactics that people from the far right use when talking about, abortion rights for women, explaining why choice is such an important part of the Democratic Party platform in a way that is digestible to a population that is predominantly Catholic, and making sure that they can understand why one's religious personal belief when voting. And Nancy Pelosi is a perfect example of this, as well as Joe Biden, that although you can be a Catholic in a country where you have religious separation from the government, not everybody, is necessarily following your exact religious inclinations, in the most polite way, explaining that about how women should be allowed to freely choose or not choose how to be in control of their bodies. And I say that because that was a really big focal point of the Rudy Salas campaign in 22. As you recall, this is right after the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and David Valadao is a staunch anti-abortion Republican incumbent in all cases, last time I heard. So this is something that needs to be, connected with the voting population on top of getting them to even vote in the first place. And if they do vote, making sure they vote Democrat. So those are two big things. And then lastly, to the language barrier, making sure we always have, that's something really big with a lot of the groups that came out too, was just making sure we have information available in bilingual terms always, to make sure we are able to capture the moms and the dads and the grandparents who are usually the matriarchs and patriarchs of a lot of the children who are of voting age, to kind of whip them into voting, because they're able to digest that information and kind of tell their kids, even if they themselves are residents and unable to vote, they can be like, mijo, mija, please, like you have a power that is really great collectively, 3,000 divided in a huge congressional district can really make the difference. And making sure that language is successfully channeled through radio, through television, through mailers, through literature, canvassing, in every way you can think of, is a third big point too. And with that, I do want to open up to questions because I do have 10 more minutes.
Does anybody have any questions? If so, Inga, sounds like, or are you requesting that people hand up? Or do you have
I'm giving an example of how to ask questions, but I also have a question. So you were mentioning the difficulty of getting out the message. When you had in 2022, what kind of messages do you think particularly resonated when you talked to the voters of that area? What sort of things did they respond to? You were saying they have a lot of economic concerns, for example. So I don't know if you go into Inflation Reduction Act or whatever, but what were your biggest successes in that regard?
Well, what worked with me and my family, and I mean my extended family too, my aunts, my uncles, was talking about the immigration policies of the National Republican Party and kind of connecting that to more tangible immigration policy going forward. And additionally, just making sure I connected with them on, there was another big one that I'm drawing a blank on with uh, I just drew a blank right now, but just connecting them with their roots and making sure that they understand that the Democratic Party is the one that's kind of carrying them over, regardless of the noise, because a lot of Hispanic and Latino families, they are really hyper focused on money, and sometimes the Republican Party is able to articulate a message of economic viability in a way that they are attracted to because of hard work. That they experience in a lot of different ways, whether that's agriculture or then coming out of the agricultural place and owning their own business. And they see that one party is always talking about tax deductions and tax cuts, while the other one's talking about healthcare, and they just they don't seem to understand that there's a whole big picture, and making sure that they see that big picture, not just their own personal balance sheets, and just making sure, and it's really hard to convince people to do that, but making sure that we try our hardest to connect them to the greater good, because if certain people get elected, at the end of the day, are they going to really have policies that are going to benefit, our families who came in? And I'll try to remember what the big point was that worked for me. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now.
It always works if you don't think about it. Then it'll
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
Well, having been in CD 22, one of the issues that comes up a lot, I find, is safety. And it's not so much that crime is the issue, but that in neighborhoods, the street lights out, or there's not a stop sign on the corner. Things like that really seem to be a big concern to people in that area.
Yes. And actually just remembered, you were right, Judith.
Yes.
Don't think about it. In regards to what worked for me and my family was actually talking about the candidates.
There you go.
Candidate, and this we talked about earlier with Andy Bashir, but when the candidate's successes are mentioned, and specifically Rudy Salas walking with the immigrants, agricultural worker strike for Gavin Newsom, from Delano all the way up to Sacramento, and being able to show them pictures, be able to show them a speech that Rudy Salas said, and really having them see that kind of makes them feel goosebumps, and seeing somebody who stands up for their rights versus, say, an agricultural tycoon titan, big ag that is David Valadao, and a lot of the Dutch and Portuguese landowners that dominate the Central Valley. That worked very well because Rudy Salas was running on a 10-year platform in Sacramento already, and he had his own connection. So explaining the candidate was really effective for me, to my family, just opening up his resume and showing them the difference. And then after that, it's pretty easy because a lot of Latino families who grew up, especially like myself, where we grew up on farms where the dairy owners gave us like a little trailer to live in for the first 5 years of my life, like we recognized the types of, baseline pay that they would give a lot of the farm workers, and the amount of money that they think that the farm workers and the dairy workers don't know that they're making, but they do, and how that doesn't always translate into their own paychecks being increased, but rather it's increased because of government stepping in and raising the minimum wage, raising the health standards, the workplace. And Rudy Salas was very instrumental in a lot of that, including helping the farm workers be able to unionize and being able to articulate their own rights. So that worked a lot very well too, just having a really great candidate, and speaking to those terms too, for sure.
So one of the things in that district, the Republicans, Valadao's campaign was running a lot of lies about Rudy Salas. Do you think that's going to happen again in 2024, that as Rudy's running again, that he's going to be hit with a bunch of lies? And if so, what do you think we as people who are trying to help him can do?
Yeah, I think he has no other choice. He being Valadao. I mean, he just voted for the current Speaker Johnson, right? He supported Jim Jordan. The Republicans are in chaos. with the next week being the CR extension. So I don't think he'll have a choice but to continue being negative, especially to build on that negativity he's already established in people's brains out there. The number one way to combat that from Rudy Salas, I think, is to actually debate. Judith, I know you probably remember this, but and I love Rudy Salas, everybody, but you know, you don't always agree with everybody 100% of the time. That's just not normal. I don't even agree with my mom, and I love her 100% of the time. But I disagreed wholeheartedly with the decision not to debate David Valadeo. I think that if he would have, and it would have been translated in Spanish, and it would have hit the waves, and he was able to not only say who he was and what he's done, and combating the lies, I think would have been very effective. Because in a debate, you can get emotional, you can get passionate, you can you know, stand your toes. Although, you know, David Valadeo is a tall, domineering man, like that doesn't necessarily matter because you're speaking to the merits of your own reputation, but also even if some things may be true or not, you're able to tell the folks it's the big picture here. I'm going to prevent, you know, at that time, McCarthy from becoming Speaker of the House. McCarthy, who's a sycophant for Trump, who was against the insurrection, and then went to go kiss his ring. You don't want leadership like that. Those are the exact epitome of what people don't like in a politician. And I think that would have been a very effective thing, Judith. This time going forward to combating those lies is to actually have them debate each other multiple times, if possible, in Spanish sections of the debate sphere too, because I can't emphasize enough how much the patriarch and matriarch of the families and Latino families, which I feel is the it's like the giant that's sleeping dormant in the valley to kind of break out and like actually go out to the poll and like vote, because they're the ones that are going to be able to slap their kids around and being like, go vote, here's your paper, sign this, I'll turn it in for you, like, you know, and kind of like really feel that somebody's going to be in Washington fighting for them, and at the end of the day making sure that we regain control.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody? Oh, Wenman has a question, please.
Hi. Hi, Alex. Thanks for everything that you do. So I vote in Irvine, California. Katie Porter is my rep. It was a very close vote last time. So what recommendations would you have for Orange County, where, you know, it's not so much the same demographic as, you know, CA22. It's a bit different. But what would you suggest to candidates running in Irvine, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, those places that are kind of turning red again?
Yeah, so 2 points on that. And again, I'm not going to pretend to know to be an expert in every sense, but I always think it's really important because in California you have motor voter laws, which would register automatically 18-year-olds and the 20-year-olds who are automatically registered. And I feel like a lot of campaigns, they create their universes to target the expected voter base to make sure that they actually turn out. So they're the ones that are targeted, and you're going to miss out on a lot of the first-time voters. I mean, people who just haven't voted because they don't show up on the universe when you go knocking for Katie Porter. They're not going to show up on your PDI. You're just going to be walking through past all these doors, and the effort's not being made to talk to these individuals, to persuade them with love and affection and passion that I feel is very important, 2, 3 times at the door or in a phone call. And they're being overlooked just because of the simple fact that they just don't vote on the universe status. And number two, I don't know how, I mean, we're a year out, but voter registration is important because when you're able to connect to a person and they actually register, that person is more likely to vote again. And then you have all their contact information to call them, hey, you know, I'm Alex, I register you to vote at the Walmart, or I register you to vote wherever, like make sure you vote. And that takes an efficient organizing campaign. I can't even say enough. It's like a recall campaign. You have to have bodies out there, right? But Orange County benefits from a very big population where you are able to use a lot of your, you know, your seniors who necessarily just can't walk everywhere all the time, right? But they are able to hold the ground with a tent, with a canopy, a lot of the time take shifts and just build that voter registration base and type in all that information and be able to use that when you multiply it by an X number, countywide or congressional district wide. So then I don't know how much you won by last time, but we only lost by 3,000, right? So these are numbers that are very important because if you divide 3,000 with like, 10 sites, then you can get an idea of how many days you need to be out there registering an X amount of number per day and making sure they give you their email and their contact information so you can be a bugaboo and being like, we connected, we had this thing, right? Like, you should definitely see how powerful you are by turning out to vote. Because those are things that the Republicans don't expect. It's like a secret pocket card pocket that you can use to win on top of the previously mentioned, making sure you try and expand the universe. The campaigns are not going to like that, I will let you know, because they're just really big on money and efficiency. But you can have a separate organization kind of go out there and specifically target 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and letting them know this is going to affect your future, in every single way, in the long run.
So just a follow up, if I could, what's your confidence in the state party? And sorry not to know who's heading up the California state party, but do you feel that there's like a good strategy statewide to make sure that we, are winning the swing districts next year?
They did bring the executive board convention to Visalia, which is in Tulare County, which I thought was a big shock to me. It showed that they are moving towards what's obvious, which is, the numbers are in the Central Valley in regards to winning, not necessarily statewide, but definitely winning the federal seats. As in regards to a statewide campaign, I can't speak to that because I'm not really sure what. Okay, yeah, Judith's probably the best person. I'm not really sure about the statewide campaign. And but before you speak, Judith, does anybody else have any other questions? Because I'm really sorry, I do have a
Alan
really hard.
does. Alan has one more question.
Hi, yeah, thanks a lot for that. I remember, this is quite some time ago when I first arrived in California, maybe 35 years ago. And the United Farm Workers, and it was Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez were enormous powers, right, in the farm working community, in particular the Hispanic farm working community that they came from. Is that still true? Is there a big labor movement? You touched on some of the benefits for farm workers, but I mean, is there a labor movement that we could be tapping into, and how do we develop that?
The labor movement needs to be developed. Absolutely. Like, it's not what it used to be at all. I'm not gonna lie to you, Alan. The names are known, but the history is not. So like, you can say Cesar Chavez to you're blue in the face, but people don't connect that to anything tangible for themselves, which is pretty obvious, I feel, until you actually pick up a book or sit down with somebody who's able to explain to you the struggle. However, I feel like it could be expanded into where nobody's doing the work off year constantly with fast food workers, at retail workers, at the actual agrarian businesses where the workers congregate, to let them know about the fact that they can unionize together and be strong, because it is, it's such a fear in that area because they control your entire life. You can get fired, you're going to be poor, you can get shots, you can be intimidated if not shot, to a big degree, beat up. So like, no one's actually going into the milking line and actually organizing those workers who can then organize their children, or going out into the field where they're in the orchards or in the vineyards and actually talking to them as they're going in and out of their cars, eating their lunch, like, and the same thing, I can't emphasize enough, retail and fast food workers. Those are huge voting blocks who are already U.S. citizens, the sons of these immigrants. Nobody's going into those actual businesses because you have to find people where they are. You go knock on someone's door, they want to eat. They want to watch TV. They want to like hang out with their lover. Like, they don't want to talk to somebody at 30 seconds at the door all the time. But you are able to get them pretty awake and attentive is at work. And I don't know how legal it is, but like, there is just a way to do it, I'm sure. And I don't know if I answered your question, but like, it's not being done enough, to the extent where I feel it would be beneficial to all of us in the electoral process, to making sure people know. And then, and that creates debate within the workplace, right? It may cause drama too, but like, at least people are able to see like, oh, I got my $15 minimum wage because of Democrats. Republicans always voted against it. Oh, I have healthcare through Obamacare because Democrats fought for that, and it's very affordable to me instead of not having healthcare. Oh, that makes sense to me. I'm a 20-year-old girl, a woman, I should say, and I have the right to choose because Democrats are fighting for my right to choose if I don't want to be pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, that's something I feel is very, tangible, at the end of the day. Plus, they're paying taxes. They're working. They're W-2s. You know what I mean? So, like, they need to understand these things. And I think in the long run, that's going to be very successful. And I really have to go.
Alex, thank you so much. We really appreciate your perspective. Take care. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alex.
So I would like to respond for one sec to Wenman's question. In January, we are going to have the head of the California Democratic Party organizing team speak to us, Cassandra Chavez. And Rusty, who is the overall head of the California Democratic Party, has started organizing early. It's called No Off Years. So we have already been knocking on doors in the Central Valley. We started phone banking in March, asking people what issues are important to them and starting a conversation, because so many people said, oh, Democrats only come to us when they need our vote. And they come the last couple of weeks before the election. Well, we started in March with the phone calls. And then in October, we actually started knocking on doors. We had 30 people coming to knock on doors in Modesto. We don't even have a candidate yet, but we're talking about what are you concerned about? What are your concerns? And then we'll soon, March 5th is the primary. So we will soon have actual candidates that we can discuss. And the canvassing and phone banking is really going to start, but it's a big change. We learned our lesson when we didn't win all the seats that we anticipated last year. And we're really doing things different this year. So come in January and here's Cassandra speak. It's a brilliant thing that they've got going. All right.
Thanks.
Do you want to share the slide again, Judith?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Got away from our little slide deck because we got.
Yes, I had a little problem with the. Oh, one thing I did want to mention to everybody, I had a little Wi-Fi problem that I solved, is somebody had a question about why do I have to sign up each year? You heard Alex talk. What's really important is voting. That's how we win. I don't know if you can see my little button. When we all vote, we win. So, the race in 2022 was close. Rudy's running again. He's going to have name recognition, but he can't do it without people voting for him. You heard Alex talk about that. He was talking about in district. We are out of district. We are all over the world. But if we are voting, we can help win these races. So go to votefromabroad.org, and I'm going to put the link in chat very soon, and make sure that you're registered. And if you have changed where you're living, if there's anything that needs to be updated, please don't hesitate to do that. So now I'm going to hand it back to you, Inga, and move on to another slide.
To sort of expand a little bit on the question, I think the question Joy was asking also as Californians, we're a very lucky state because we do get our ballots, but we do nonetheless recommend to all voters across the world, because a lot of states are not as organized as California, that they go ahead and register every year at votefromabroad.org just to make sure that they're receiving the ballot. Another thing that's going to be coming up, and you're going to start to be seeing information about this, is we are going to be having a global presidential primary for Democrats abroad. Now, what that means is that you can cast your ballot for president only, and you can do that in person, you can do that online, and that will be with Democrats abroad, and that will sort of give the voice to overseas votes. You will still be voting for all the state elections that you can vote in. So that's still going to be valid. But that's just something I wanted to let you know about, because you're going to start to see a lot of information about that. The wheels are very much spinning. That is going to be in person in many places. I believe we are scheduling one, for example, in London. Very often it's coinciding with Super Tuesday, which, as Judith mentioned, is March 5th this year. And so you often have the opportunity to, even though you're living abroad, go somewhere where you can cast your ballot. And it's great also for kids who have never lived in America or seen that happen to understand what it exactly is like to go and vote in person. Now, if you go to the next slide, we just want to talk about the state team. The California state team, there's several state teams. We don't cover every state in Democrats Abroad because it's a pretty big project. But there are quite a number of them. I think we even have someone here from the Wisconsin state team, which has made a lot of exciting inroads. And the California state team, we've been sort of event driven. So we had an event around the time of the governor recall. And then we've also had all the candidates from the swing districts in the 2022 cycle. Our plan now is to expand out a little bit as we get ready for 2024. And this is where you come in. We are looking for a number of the people listed here. There is a form that you can fill out. There's a survey. If you're a writer, an editor, graphic artist, we're putting together a regular newsletter. Paula Matos is here, and she'll be our news editor for that. We're also looking for phone banking, people who are interested in that and coordinating that. Letter writers, writing to your local paper, other kinds of communication. Following legislation is a really important one because in a lot of states, Wisconsin is a perfect example of this, there are a lot of measures to disenfranchise overseas voters in general and overseas voters as well. So having someone who wants to look at that. And we're also very interested in informing our voters about informing overseas voters about the issues that affect them and about issues that affect them as California voters. And even though we may, some of us, be in a safe blue district, or in the case of one, a district that has just changed and hopefully will remain, it's still important that we think about the state of as a whole. Remember, California sends the third greatest number of Republican Congress people to Congress after only Texas and Florida. Not something to be super proud of. So I think there are districts that can be swayed. I think there is a lot of work ahead, and that's what we're all about. We have an event coming up on December 4th. It's going to be kind of an organizing event. It'll be a lot more open, and we want to hear from you about what your ideas are and about organizing the event that Judith mentioned with the head of the Cal Dems, in addition to some other events we have. So we really hope you'll be able to participate. Please fill out that form, get in touch at our email. Right, I'm just looking into the box, but we hope that you'll be interested in doing that and getting involved. So we look forward to seeing you on the 4th, to hearing from you, letting us know about your capabilities, what you'd be interested in doing. Let me see. Are there any other questions about what we're doing in California, what you might do in California? And of course, Democrats Abroad is a big organization, so there's lots of other organizing opportunities as well. And I know some of you were involved in your country level as well. Yeah, I understand that, Joy. I appreciate. Joy mentions in the chat that there's sort of a standard blurb saying, finally, to receive your CA ballot by email, you need to send in a ballot request every election year. I agree. That's very confusing because a lot of us have relationships with our own local election officials. I know I do. So I think that's a good question. I think it's something we could stand to clear up because there's a lot of confusing messages. But if you join our state teams, we'll keep you more informed, make sure that messages being sent to other states don't come to us just because we are slightly different here.
Question?
Yep.
Hello, I'm sorry. I'm calling from Florence, Italy. I'm a Californian native, whatever. I've got a number of thoughts on this, and one is in the city of Florence alone, there are 25,000 students on American campuses. That doesn't mean they're all Americans, but there are 25,000 students at any one point in time attending an American University Abroad program. And I was wondering, I've been talking to people locally about having an event or doing something, because if you capture even half of them, that's a big chunk of the vote. Additionally, overseas, if you think of if there was some coordinated effort internationally for students abroad to get them registered and to get them to vote, would be could be a huge obvious contribution to to the Democrat agenda platform, and obviously not only at the presidential level but down ballot. And when you talk about these sort of swing key districts, for example in the Central Valley or in Orange County, I understand that Democrats Abroad has the information on the registered voters who've registered through Democrats Abroad, exactly what district they are voting from, so those people can be targeted too. There's a lot that could be done overseas.
Yeah, that's great. You're absolutely right. You're certainly right about study abroad people. I was told at some point that the UK has the it's either Italy or the UK, I think they're vying, has the greatest number of study abroad voters. Judith, do you want to respond to that? I can give a little insight to Democrats Abroad's actions, but go ahead.
So it's really easy to hold a voter registration drive at colleges and universities. And I've even gone to American movies and talked to the owner of the theater, the people who are working in the theater. A lot of the theaters in the UK have areas where you can sit down and drink and chat before the movie. And I've set up a table there and registered Americans to vote. So you're right. We need to really reach out, expand our Democrats Abroad base everywhere. Every nation should be doing things like that, because there are probably millions of Americans living abroad who are Democrats, who are not part of Democrats Abroad.
How many are the total of Democrats Abroad?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know the stats. Do you, Inga, the updated stats?
Yeah, it's sort of not something we share that much, but I can tell you that it is, a large numbers, in the hundreds of thousands. And this is around the world. Some countries, as you might guess, are larger than others. And Italy is pretty big. Are you in touch at all with your local leadership there in Italy?
Yes, I am. And my understanding is that there are 6,000 Democrats, which to me it is a pittance when you consider the number of students here, when you consider the number of dual nationality, Italian American, dual passports. It could be a lot bigger. And one of the things that I'm thinking, and I this idea, my godson, who's just relatively recently out of college, was over here in Italy this summer, and I was asking him, how do we get out the student votes? What does it take? Do you have to get Taylor Swift or something? I mean, what will get them to come out and vote? And his thing was, you don't need Taylor Swift. He said, you need a cool place, you need free wine, and you need, and make it a college mixer. He said, because every college student, wants to meet other college students. So make it a party. So why can't we, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. Why can't we do events? And it's problematic doing it on the college campuses because they have restrictions and they don't want to feel too partisan or but we can get the word out to the various different campuses and say, on XYZ date, whatever, let's, whatever the students are back, let's say in September of next year, or do something in March, and then just have a fun party somewhere and get, and with booths so people can actually register to vote, or desks or tables and follow up.
I love your passion for this topic. I mean, we're getting a little off the California team thing, but there was, in fact, a lot of study abroad organizing globally in the last presidential cycle. And I want to hear from Wenwen, because I think she may be talking a little bit about some of the efforts she's familiar with.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to respond to Jan and ask, have you approached the current chair of Italy
Oh yeah, talked to her. Yeah, talked to her on the phone, and
Okay.
I have talked to her. I talked to her the last cycle as well. I have, and she's great. She's great. And thing is that there, and I asked her for. I asked her for one of the things I've asked her for, and I understand there was a meeting recently in Spain where that she attended for Democrats
Right.
abroad,
Yep.
people that the country chairs. But the thing is, in going on the website and for me talking to people that might be possible contributors to Democrats abroad for events, for getting out the vote, they very sophisticated Democrat, you know, voters or people I know very involved in the Democrat Party know in the States know very little about Democrats abroad. And I don't. I've seen some statistics about what happened in Georgia and how that influenced the election and the senatorial whatever the Senate seats. But I think there needs to be a stronger case, and it's like a one-page between the eyes. This is how it made a difference, rather than some random emails or newsletters or saying this happened or that. But I think the case for Democrats abroad and the potential influence needs to be stated in a very succinct way so that
Right.
everybody
Right.
knows.
You
Not
know what,
only
Jan? I was just thinking about that this morning, exactly what you're talking about. And I know this is a digression, but a one-page, basically fact sheet where we've got documented exactly where we were the margin of victory over the last several years and exactly what that margin was. The one that yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I'd love to talk about it. Maybe one-on-one so that I don't derail the Zoom.
no, well,
Yeah.
but it all, but it's all for the good of California, and we're all Californians, aren't we? I mean, I'm a native and whatever, raised and
Yeah.
in but and this is the thing that it can help the down ballot, not just on the presidential level,
Right.
but I think about for the districts, and it's a unique situation in terms of targeting people abroad because they're more likely to vote Democrat, first of all, and but they need to be contacted.
But
And I think
Yeah, Jan, I think we're going to stop you right there because you
Yeah.
got so many
I do
incredible
want to
ideas.
quickly say though to you that I work with an organization called Field Team 6, and Field Team 6 is all about registering voters. And they held training for the Rome chapter of Democrats abroad to be able to do we call them high traffic voter reg, where you're going to a school, you're going to a farmer's market, you're going to a place where lots of Americans are there, and you registered them to vote. So it is happening. You do need to contact as Inga said, your nation party, and take the initiative and say, hey, I will help create this voter edge drive. You can do it.
no, I think
Dream
yeah.
come true.
I think one thing Democrats abroad does a brilliant job, brilliant job, is of providing the information on specifically what you need to do to vote. And I think the level of detail and the knowledge and the information and the resources, it's incredible because it's there, state by state, and goofy things where you have to have black ink pens in certain states and have it folded. I mean, it's crazy. But I think there's a lot that Democrats abroad has done brilliantly. But I do think that there's a scope for development in terms of signing more people up, getting more registering to vote, and getting them to vote, out to vote. And a lot of it could be done through events.
Yep.
Yeah, that
I'm with you.
sounds great. All right. Are there any other questions? When did you just want to round up on that?
Actually, just a request to you, Inga, and to Judith. Would it be possible to set up a WhatsApp or Signal chat? Would that make sense? Like for the California state group to start just basically coalescing ourselves?
That's-
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I've got another idea specifically for Italian American Californians who are in Congress.
Yeah.
That's-
Some of
But
the
yes,
state
I would like
teams.
that. I don't know how. Sorry, just I've left my email address. I don't know where are you when I'm not sure what kind. I'm sorry, I was having trouble getting on Zoom, so I was around for the original part. Are you whereabouts are you living
I'm in
now?
the UK.
Okay.
I'm outside London.
Okay, excellent. Okay, same time zone, 1
Yeah.
hour apart. Yeah.
1
Yeah,
hour
if you
difference.
can see my email address there, please, send me an email.
Okay, is it okay? Okay, if it's on the thing, I will do that, and we can talk more. But I enjoy hearing all that you all have to say, and it's great to hear a good California accent for a change.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Almost.
That's great. Well, we hope to see a lot of you on the 4th. I believe the link is down there as well. And we'll also have it on the page on Democrats Abroad. So I feel like we're sort of overwhelming you with information, but stay in touch. Let us know your capabilities. And yeah, we're going to get organized and ready for 2024.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for all of you putting all this together.
Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for joining.
Okay. All righty.